There is a kind of pain that doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't announce itself with shouting, or arguments, or dramatic endings. It arrives quietly. One day you realize they are no longer here, not in your messages, not in your voice notes, not in the small moments you assumed would always exist. They didn't say goodbye. They didn't explain. They didn't warn you that the last conversation was going to be the last. And that is what breaks something inside you. Because when someone leaves without saying anything, your mind doesn't know where to place the ending. There is no closure, no final sentence, no moment you can point to and say, "Here, this is where it ended." Instead, the ending floats, unfinished, unspoken, unresolved, and the human mind suffers deeply in unfinished spaces. When love ends without words, the pain is not just emotional, it becomes psychological. Your brain begins searching for answers that were never given. You replay conversations, not because you want to remember them, but because you are trying to locate the mistake. You ask yourself questions that never get responses. Did I say something wrong? Did I miss a sign? Was I not enough? Was there someone else? Did I matter at all? And the most dangerous question of all begins to form quietly. If I meant something, how could they leave without saying anything? This question does not seek truth. It seeks reassurance. But reassurance never comes, because silence gives no explanation. The human mind is wired to make sense of endings. We can survive rejection. We can survive honesty. We can even survive betrayal. But we struggle deeply with ambiguity. Ambiguity feels like abandonment that never finishes happening. When someone you love moves on without saying anything, your pain does not spike once. It loops. It replays. It renews itself every time you remember that you never got to ask why. First, your mind enters shock. Not the dramatic kind, a quieter shock. You check your phone more often than usual. You expect a message that doesn't arrive. You tell yourself they are just busy. Denial is not stupidity. It is self-protection. The mind delays pain when it feels unsafe to feel it all at once. So you create explanations. Maybe they need space. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they'll come back when things calm down. Hope becomes a temporary shelter. But hope built on silence is fragile. Because silence does not confirm hope. It only postpones grief. Then comes the second phase, confusion. This is when your thoughts become louder than your emotions. You begin analyzing everything. The tone of their last message, the timing of their distance, the shift in their energy. You remember moments that felt normal at the time, but now feel suspicious. You start rewriting history, and this is where the mind becomes cruel. Because instead of blaming the absence of communication, turns inward. It begins assigning fault to you. You think of things you could have done differently, things you should have said, moments where you wish you had been quieter or louder. You imagine alternate realities, where one small change might have prevented their silence. This creates a dangerous illusion that the ending was preventable, if only you had been someone else. And slowly your self-worth becomes tied to an ending you never got to participate in. The silence begins to feel personal, not just as a loss of love, but as a rejection of your value. Because when someone leaves without explanation, the brain assumes the explanation must be you. not because it's logical, but because it's the only variable you can still access. You cannot access their thoughts. You cannot access their reasons. You cannot access their internal world anymore. But you can access yourself. So the mind turns inward and starts interrogating. This is where emotional pain becomes identity pain. You don't just feel hurt. You start feeling replaceable, invisible, easily discarded. You wonder how someone could be so close to you and then vanish as if you never mattered. And this thought damages something fundamental, your sense of emotional safety, because love is supposed to be a place of communication, of honesty, of care. When love ends without words, it violates that expectation. It teaches your nervous system something frightening. That connection can disappear without warning. And once the nervous system learns this, it does not forget easily. You begin to fear future closeness, not consciously at first, but subtly. You hesitate before opening up again. You overanalyze responses. You brace yourself for abandonment, even when no one is leaving. This is how silent endings echo forward. They don't stay in the past. They shape the future. Another painful layer emerges when you realize they have moved on, not just emotionally, but visibly. You see signs, new routines, new people, new happiness. And what hurts is not that they are happy. What hurts is that they reached happiness without ever closing the chapter with you. You were left holding an unfinished story while they began a new one. This creates a sense of emotional imbalance. Feels unfair, not because relationships must last forever, but because endings deserve acknowledgement. Being left without words feels like being erased, as if the connection existed only in your mind. And that thought can make you doubt your own reality. You ask yourself, was it real to them the way it was real to me? And when you can't get that answer, you begin questioning your ability to judge intimacy. You wonder if you imagined depth where there was none. This is deeply destabilizing, because trust in others begins with trust in your perception. When silence destroys that trust, everything feels uncertain, even your memories. Another painful phase arrives quietly, longing, not for them exactly, but for the version of yourself that felt secure when they were present. You miss the ease, the comfort of being known, the feeling that someone would explain before disappearing. This longing is misunderstood by many. They think you miss the person, but often you miss the safety they represented. The idea that someone would stay long enough to speak honestly, and when that idea collapses, you grieve more than a person. You grieve a belief in emotional responsibility, a belief that love includes closure. The mind struggles to let go of silent endings because there is nothing to release. No final conversation, no agreed goodbye. Letting go feels like abandoning yourself. So you hold on longer than you should, not because you want them back, but because letting go feels like accepting confusion as truth. And the human mind resists unresolved truth. This is why silent endings take longer to heal, because healing usually begins with understanding, and silence blocks understanding. At this point, anger sometimes surfaces, but it is a muted anger, not explosive, more like a quiet resentment. You feel wronged, but unsure if you're allowed to feel that way. After all, they didn't shout at you. They didn't insult you, they just disappeared. And that makes the anger confusing. You ask yourself if you're being dramatic, if you're expecting too much, if closure is even something people owe each other. This internal debate is exhausting, because your emotions know something your logic is still negotiating. That disappearing without explanation is a form of emotional abandonment. It may not be intentional, but it is impactful. And impact matters more than intention. When it comes to psychological wounds, the mind eventually reaches a crossroads. Either it continues searching for answers that won't come, or it begins the painful work of self-closure. Self-closure is difficult because it means accepting that you may never know the truth, that the story will remain incomplete, that some endings do not arrive with clarity. This acceptance feels like loss all over again, because you are not only losing them, you are losing the possibility of explanation. And that loss hurts in a uniquely human way, because humans are meaning-making beings. We don't just want things to end. We want to understand why. When we don't, the mind fills the gaps, and it does not always fill them kindly. This is where compassion becomes necessary, not for them, but for yourself, because silence can make you feel unworthy. But silence is often about avoidance, not value. Some people do not know how to end things honestly. Some people avoid discomfort at all costs. Some people move on by pretending the past doesn't exist. Their silence is not always a measure of your worth, but the wounded mind struggles to see that. It equates being left without words with being undeserving of them, and that belief can linger, if not challenged gently. Healing begins not when you understand them, but when you stop making their silence a verdict on who you are. This is where the story slowly shifts. Not suddenly, not cleanly, but gradually. You begin realizing that someone capable of leaving without explanation may not have been capable of loving with clarity. That silence reveals something about their emotional capacity, not your value. This realization does not erase the pain, but it reframes it. And reframing is the beginning of recovery. This is where part 1 rests, not with answers, but with awareness. Because before healing can begin, the pain must be seen clearly.